The moment the God hand descended upon the abyss, the choice was made. Blood, viscera, and agony painted the sacrificial altar as the band of the hawk perished beneath the monstrous hands of apostles. Their cries became echoes in the void, swallowed by fate itself. But this time, there was no femto. Instead, the swirling chaos of causality turned its gaze toward someone else. Not Griffith, Guts, the warrior who had carved his way through 1,000 enemies, who had defied fate at every turn, who had bled for the world's cruel amusement, the one who should never have been chosen. Yet, as Griffith lay broken beneath the weight of his own failure, as the Behelit pulsed with an unnatural heartbeat, the God hand made their offer, not to the man who had always dreamed of kingship, but to the beast who had never sought anything but war. The choice was simple: struggle. The word slithered into his mind, seductive and cruel, the same whisper of fate that had tormented him all his life. Struggle and transcend. Guts did not speak. His body was broken, his left eye blinded, his arm devoured by the maw of an apostle. Casca screamed somewhere in the void, but her voice was already fading, already meaningless. Something in him, something primal, laughed. Fate had never granted him mercy, never given him a path beyond pain. But now, it offered him power, and power was the only thing that had ever made sense. With a bloodied smirk, he clenched what remained of his arm and let his own sacrifice begin. The transformation was unlike anything the world had seen. When Griffith became femto, his ascension had been that of a fallen angel, sleek and regal, a black-winged monarch of the abyss. Guts's was nothing but carnage. The abyss itself howled as his flesh tore apart, reshaped into something beyond human comprehension. His body expanded, twisted, armored in black iron and raw sinew, his single eye glowing like an open wound in the void. His missing arm became a weapon in itself, gnarled, clawed, a monstrous appendage that could tear through dimensions. He was no dark prince, no cosmic tactician. He was ruin, the embodiment of endless war, a nightmare given form, the first God hand that did not rule from the shadows, but led the charge. His very presence corrupted the apostles. Where femto was a cold and calculated force, ruin was raw annihilation, tearing apart any who dared stand before him, even his own kind. The band of the hawk never became apostles. They were obliterated. Casca was spared, not as a trophy, but as a reminder, a relic of what once was, left behind to wander the waking world, forever haunted by what Guts had become. Midland fell first, not to scheming or deception, but to sheer destruction. Then the apostles turned on each other. Where once they had served their masters with religious devotion, now they feared their newest kin. Ruin was not like the others. He was not a king, not a god, not a ruler behind a veil. He was the Berserker incarnate. The sky bled as his sword carved through the astral plane. The sea god fell to his hand. The Kushan Empire burned. The Skull Knight, once so certain of his role in this eternal cycle, faltered at the sheer, unrelenting chaos before him. And deep in the abyss, Void and the remaining God Hand watched their newest brother with unease. For the first time in the history of their existence, they had made a mistake. They had not created a ruler. They had created the end. Ruin did not abide by the laws of the cosmos. He did not weave plans in the shadows like his kin. He did not wait for causality to shape the world in his favor. He took, and as he tore through the fabric of the astral world, the first to fall was Slan. the temptress of flesh, the goddess of depravity. She screamed as Ruin's claws ripped through her ethereal form, shattering her essence into dust. Conrad followed next, his plague swallowed by the abyss as Ruin devoured him whole. Void and Ubik fled, their once immeasurable power now reduced to nothing in the face of true chaos. Even the idea of evil itself trembled, its carefully woven threads of destiny unraveling before something it had never accounted for, something beyond fate, a force that was never meant to exist. Ruin did not stop. He had been caged by fate his entire life, beaten, betrayed, broken, forced to endure. Now there was no more endurance. There was only destruction. And as the last of the God Hand fell, as the astral plane itself cracked under the weight of his wrath, Ruin stood alone, his form a shadow of oblivion against the void. The world trembled, and he smiled. The cosmos itself trembled under Ruin's onslaught. I, once guts, a warrior defined by pain and relentless struggle, had transcended my mortal limitations only to become something monstrous, a being of pure, unbridled destruction. My body, now an amalgam of black iron and raw sinew, pulsed with chaotic energy. Every wound I had ever borne, every drop of blood spilled in battle, had been forged into this cursed power. Yet, even as I carved a path of annihilation through the remnants of kingdoms, a hollow emptiness gnawed at my soul. I strode through the ruins of Midland as if marching through a nightmare. The once proud citadels lay in shattered heaps, their walls smeared with blood and ash. The screams of the fallen, soldiers and apostles alike, echoed in the void, a grim chorus to the collapse of order. Even the heavens bled. The sky, once a proud canvas of blue, had turned a relentless, oppressive red, as if stained by the sacrifice of countless lives. But the most terrible truth was not the devastation around me. It was the realization that I had become something beyond control. As I advanced, my corrupted power tore apart everything in its path. Yet every act of destruction only deepened the void inside. I had achieved the might I once craved, but in doing so, I had lost something irreplaceable, my very self. Deep within the swirling chaos of my mind, memories I had once cherished, of a time when I fought with honor, when I had friends and hopes, began to fade. Faces of my fallen comrades, of those I had sworn to protect, blurred into an endless, formless mass. Their voices, once a beacon of purpose, became nothing more than distant echoes, drowned out by the cacophony of ruin. I came to a halt on a shattered bridge spanning the remnants of a ruined city. Before me, the abyss roiled and churned, and I sensed, in the very fabric of this collapsing world, a final reckoning. The remaining God Hand, Void, Ubik, and the others watched from afar, their expressions hidden behind masks of ancient indifference. For the first time, I understood that my very existence was an aberration in their perfect, predetermined order. I was not the chosen ruler. I was an error, a violent paradox that should never have been. In that moment, as the ground cracked beneath my feet and the blood-red sky split open like a wound, I knew there was only one way to end this catastrophe. With a roar that shook the very heavens, I raised my monstrous blade and charged toward the heart of the abyss. Every step was fueled by the desperate hope of reclaiming what I had lost, the identity that had once made me guts, the man who fought for a future rather than a destiny dictated by fate. As I plunged my blade into the pulsating core of the void, a surge of light erupted, the heavens trembled, and the very fabric of time seemed to tear. In that blinding moment, the screams of the fallen faded into silence. The chaotic power of ruin began to subside, replaced by an eerie, oppressive calm. When the light dimmed, I found myself kneeling amid the ruins, my body battered and exhausted. The relentless roar of destruction had quieted, and in its place, a profound silence reigned. I staggered to my feet, desperately reaching for any remnant of the man I once was. My vision swam with fragmented images. A young boy with a wild, determined gaze. A man who had once carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, and the ghostly faces of those who had perished in the wake of my ascent. A realization hit me like a tidal wave. I had fought. I had shattered the system that had created this endless cycle of sacrifice. And in doing so, I had sacrificed the very essence of my being. The power I had craved so fiercely had come at a price beyond measure, the loss of my identity, the erasure of my name. I closed my eyes, willing myself to remember, to cling to the fragments of who I was. But when I opened them again, everything was empty, a void of uncertainty. I reached out for confirmation, for some sign that I still existed. The only response was the echo of a single haunting thought. Wait, what was my name? In that final shattering moment, I realized the ultimate cost of my ambition. I had become the ultimate weapon, a god among demons, but I had lost the one thing that made me human. And as the world around me began to crumble into nothingness, I understood that no amount of power could restore what had been sacrificed. By the way, if you want to see more scary stories like this, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and sub button. It helps a lot. Until next time.